Today, we have an amazing panel, but if you need any audio assistance, first and foremost, you can go to the back and grab a set of headphones to enhance your experience. So do feel free to do that at any point. I'm going to hand over to the panel to introduce themselves because I'm never going to be able to do it as good as they do. So first, we have Helen.
Okay, hi everyone. Can you hear me okay? Is that all right? Okay. So I've been asked to describe myself physically, which I don't think I've ever been asked to do. So I'll give it my best shot. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a 57-year-old woman with short grey hair, palish skin, rainbow glasses, and I have a penchant for big earrings and colourful dresses. I mean, that's the best I can give you folks. In terms of telling you a little bit about myself, I've taught relationship and sex education to young people with very complex physical and neuro disabilities, the most complexly disabled kids out there for over 30 years. I teach at Cheney Heritage Foundation, got the guys at the back there, and I'm also a member of SHADA, the Sexual Health and Disability Alliance, which was founded by the amazing pioneering sex and disability worker Tuppy Owens. So over the last few years, I've become really frustrated at the lack of decent resources to teach kids with such profound disabilities about sex. The stuff that is out there is just too hard. And so over the years, I've been writing sensory stories. I've been doing all sorts of writings that I feel that schools could use and care homes. And we've put this all into a package called The Sex Factor, which I'll say a bit more about later. And basically, to sum up, I firmly believe that no matter what the complexity of somebody's disability, they should never, ever be left out of the conversation about relationships and sexuality. Everyone has a right, no matter what. Okay, thanks.
Next, we have Ciara.
Hi everyone, my name is Ciara Lawrence. I'm a person with a learning disability. So to describe myself physically, I have brown hair, I have green eyes, I'm wearing a lovely pink MenCap t-shirt because I work at charity MenCap. So if anybody here works at MenCap, big T MenCap. I'm wearing green trousers, very nice new purple sandals. So I think that hopefully that gives you a flavour of who I am. So I am, as I said, I am a person with a learning disability. I've just reached my 10-year wedding anniversary, so I'm 10 years married. And I'm here to say that people with a learning disability do have relationships, they have the right to relationships, they have the right to marriage, they have the right to have sex like anybody else, but I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Thank you. Hi everyone, name's Shaun Flores. I live with OCD and ADHD. How do I describe myself? I got a lot of hair on my head. No, I don't. I'm short-haired, blue jeans, black shoes, black shirt. Yeah, I think when it comes a lot to mental health, people forget how that deeply also impacts relationships and sex. I'm single. That's all I've got left to say. Yeah. But I like it. I like being single.
I don't think you'll be single for long after this session, eh? So I am Lorraine Stanley, and I'm the founder and CEO of SWAD, which stands for Sex with a Difference. And basically, quite a few years ago now, I asked for some help from my health and social care staff because I was newly disabled, and they didn't give it to me. And I asked them really politely as well. Just realised I didn't give the audio descript of me. So I'm curvaceous. I'm what you call a BBW, which is a big, beautiful woman. I'm rather curvy, very huggable, and I'm wearing one of my favourite scarves which has got butterflies on and is sort of an aqua colour. My favourite colour is purple, including my wheelchair, which has been custom designed to be purple and sparkly. And I'm in a rather large but really comfortable, fantastic wheelchair. So that's the description bit, but getting back to the sex, I asked for help, I didn't get it. I thought, am I the only horny disabled woman in the UK? I felt I needed to check that out, because if there was anybody else like me, maybe they knew where they could get help, and then I could find out. And that was the start of SWAD, was this sort of quest. And now we do training courses all over the UK and internationally. I am Zoom-tastic. I'm also the co-chair of an international festival, virtual festival on sex and disability called Love Abilities, with my co-chair is a sex god over in America called Mitch. And I've got fingers in lots of pies. And I've also written an ebook this year. I'm very keen, we've got a campaign at the moment to make GP clinics and sexual health clinics more accessible to people. It took me 3 years at one point from when I got an invitation for my cervical screening to actually manage to get an accessible couch where I could then get, the correct treatment and see what was going on. I'm lucky because there were no changes to be worried about. But if there had been, what might have happened in those 3 years while I was waiting for that to happen? Okay, so lots about access, lots about sex and intimacy. It's not all about swinging from chandeliers. It is also about spooning, especially maybe if you've been in a relationship with somebody for a very long time and then suddenly one of you acquires a disability, but there's only a single profiling bed in the budget. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm here for you. We have a stand. You're welcome to come to me and talk to me after the session. Okay. Is that all right?
Thank you, Lorraine. And last but not least, the amazing Kelly Gordon, who's joining us as Kellybot, is going to introduce themselves.
I don't know if the sound's working. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hear me? Yeah, oh, brilliant. Okay, cool. I didn't know if it was working or not. I don't know what I'm doing on this robot. Sorry, guys. Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can see me. I'm Kelly Gordon. Oh, amazing. I can see some thumbs up. That's so cool. So I work for Heart Octopus, and Heart Octopus is a sex tech company. We design with inclusivity in mind. We have some amazing products for disabled people. But the main thing is that we are a mainstream company that designs with disability in mind. I will tell you some more about that actually. I'll tell you about myself first. I forgot that part. I got distracted by all the robotics. So I am a white woman, long dark hair. I'm wearing a beanie right now, a black beanie, and I've got very smudged makeup because it's really, really hot over here. I wish I was with you guys. I'm on bed rest at the moment. Well, I'm supposed to be. I'm sat in my chair right now because I've fractured my femur. So I wish I could be there with you guys. But I'm so excited to use this robot and to tell you more about me and my company and what we do. And it's nice to see some friendly faces today.
Thank you, Kelly. So we're going to get these questions started because everyone's probably really interested in the juicy topics that we have. And the first question, which I want all the panel members to answer in hopefully 2 minutes or under, that's your challenge, is what are some of the common misconceptions and stereotypes surrounding the sexuality of disabled people, and how can society challenge these perceptions to promote a more inclusive understanding of disability and sexual expression? And I'm thinking we start with you, because you've got the mic.
Okay. Basically, that the misconception being that maybe we're not interested in sex, or because we look a certain way or we've got a certain impairment, that sex would not be possible. Yes, there's thoughts coming into my head, sorry, that I can't express because it would just be too rude, so I do apologise. But basically, we are interested, and the health and social care professionals that we often have to have in our lives to make sure that our needs are taken care of, and that sex and intimacy is an activity of daily living in terms of if an OT or a physio is going to ask you whether or not you can do your own toileting, and they're talking about how often you poo and how many times a day and all this kind of stuff, it's like, surely we can actually include a question about how are things in terms of your well-being, principle of well-being, and it's important for health. So misconception, we're not doing it or we're not interested. It's us as a community not being in your face necessarily. I sort of have to be because that's my job. But not being afraid to ask the question of your health professional. I would say that's a big start.
I think one of the biggest things is sex is a big taboo in society. Yeah, that's how probably most of us came into the world, and especially when you're dealing with some sort of mental difficulty. I remember at my worst, my sex drive absolutely plummeted. I didn't have any desire for intimacy, and it's a very difficult conversation to have with most people, because I think a lot of people look and they assume straight off the bat that you must be, well, for myself, you must be having a very healthy sex life and so much more. So I think you've got to remove a lot of the taboo, first of all, to be able to actually have open, honest, genuine conversations about how we came into the world. Because if it's, as you said, it's a human function, and it's most importantly a human need for intimacy and relationships. So for myself, I think it's about removing the taboo of sex within itself, which would be a big, stumbling block out of the way to be able to even have conversations.
So, as a person with a learning disability, the misconception is that people with a learning disability don't have relationships because they don't understand love. They don't have sex because they don't understand contraception and how to have sex. I am a person with a learning disability, and I've worked at MenCap for 22 years, so I've been at MenCap a very long time. And when I first started there, I was told all these things. We don't have relationships, we don't have marriage, we don't have children, we don't have sex. And I was like, I'm in a relationship, I don't think so. And so for the last few years, I have really been open about my own relationship, and I've said to other people with a learning disability, actually, you can love, you can meet someone, you can have a relationship, you can get married with the right support, and I've just turned 10 years marriage, and I've shown that actually you can have a really great marriage with the right support. Recently, I went and had my neck cervical smear test, and so I rocked up to my smear test, and one of the questions the nurse asked me was, do you have sex? Are you sexually active? And I was like, well, I have a husband, if that's what you mean. She kind of looked at me as if I was a complete alien, and she's like, but it's on your records that you have a learning disability. And I was like, pardon? And I was like, I'm married, I might have a learning disability, but I'm in a relationship. And I was like, yes, actually, yes, I am, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And she was like, oh, okay, good, okay. And I was just like, right, that's a taboo right there. And so MenCap have been doing some work with Brooke, who are amazing. And we've put together some easy read guides on contraception and safe sex and relationships. So we've been doing a bit of work around that at MenCap, and I've been part of that. And I just want to say to anyone with a learning disability out there, if someone tells you you can't have a relationship, come and talk to me and I will talk to them.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to start by telling you a story completely against myself, but, I feel I'm among friends. So, as a person who wasn't born with a disability, I had a bit of a journey to go on myself. So there I was 21, I got my first job in a residential school for kids with physical disabilities. And I was a sociology graduate, and I'd done a module in sexuality. I thought I was really open-minded and all the rest of it. So one of the lads comes up to me and says, Helen, if you help me in the shower, I just need you to know that I dress completely in rubber because that's how I get my kicks. And I'm ashamed to say that I was really shocked and I was really embarrassed, and I cringe when I think about this. But, I went to his care worker and I said, this guy showers in rubber. Is that even allowed? I mean, and this was my kind of light bulb moment, really, because his carer said to me, Helen, why wouldn't he? Why shouldn't he? He's not hurting himself. He's not hurting anyone else. That might not be your bag to shower in rubber, but it's his. What's the problem? And right there, I had a light bulb moment that I have never forgotten, and it has stayed with me forever. And I think there are a couple of things there. We all have a journey to go on. If we are born non-disabled, but we work in the field, we have a journey to go on, and we need to be open. And also, the person that challenged me was kind. She didn't make me feel more than a prat than I'd already made myself look. So that's just a story I'm going to share with you. And then very quickly, the people that I work with, like I say, have profound and multiple learning disabilities. So they may be at a cognitive level of 6 months, but be an adult of 19. And the misconception there is that because they present as very young kids, maybe because of their severe and profound learning disability, they don't have sexual feelings. Or that if they're showing interest in masturbating or interest in exploring their body, it's a problem to be managed. So those are the misconceptions. Okay, the solution. The solution, I'm a teacher, so I always say education, education. Training needs to happen with all staff that work at all or have anything to do with supporting people with profound disabilities. So there's a huge list: physios, OTs, speech and language therapists, teachers, carers, social workers, doctors, nurses, the list goes on. It should be mandatory in their professional training that they have a really good understanding of disability and sexuality. Okay?
Absolutely agree with that. And Kelly, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just really quickly, because everybody has hit all the points, to be honest with you. But for me, it's about understanding different relationship styles as well. Like, just because you're disabled doesn't mean you need to date another disabled person, doesn't mean you only date non-disabled people, doesn't mean you're monogamous, doesn't mean you're straight. Like, there's not one box that you have to tick. Disabled people and people in general come in so many different ways, different forms, and everybody has a right to their sexual relationship. You know, whether it's mainstream or not mainstream, or I hate that word, but what I'm trying to say is everybody's got that right to explore themselves sexually. It doesn't mean that they have to have a straight heteronormative relationship. People can be adventurous with their sex lives. People can meet other people. People can fall in love with so many other people as well. I think there's this common misconception that, if disabled people do have a relationship or do have sex, that it's vanilla sex and it's very, very sort of straight-laced. But that's not the case. Disabled people can love kinks. Disabled people can love, Helen was saying, leather, all kinds of things, whatever, rubber, whatever it is. Doesn't mean that we all fit in the same box, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely agree.
And that's all I've got to say.
As you know, personally, I'm no wallflower. I'm a pansexual princess that loves their latex, and Kelly, our sex toys. So I agree with you. And I want to also add that people forget that there's also self-pleasure. It doesn't all have to be about relationships. It could just be you exploring you for yourself, and disabled people deserve to be able to do that. I have a question specifically for you, Ciara. And my question is, what barriers do disabled people often face when it comes to forming intimate relationships and engaging in sexual activities, and how can these barriers be addressed and overcome?
Oh, that's a very spicy question. Okay. So I guess for me, coming from my kind of professional head, so I think obviously people with a learning disability, they might not know where to meet someone. They might not have the support to go out. They might not have the support to form relationships. And actually, charities like MenCap, we can help you because we have people, we run clubs up and down the UK. We run, social clubs for people with a learning disability. We have advice. We have a helpline. We have support in place at MenCap to support people with a learning disability like me. So please go on the MenCap website, and all the info's on there, mencap.org.uk. Nice little plug for our website. So the barriers that are, people just don't know where to get easy read information from about sex and relationships, but there's lots more out there now because I've helped work on them, so I know they're out there. So just Google learning disability, sex relationships. There's loads of easy read guides out there now. There's loads of advice out there now. So it's just a case of going online and finding it. You can always ring the MenCap helpline. You can even come and speak to me after today, and I'll give you my email. So it's a case of people with disability might not know where to go, they might not know where they can meet people, how they can meet people, but we are there to support them. So if you want to know more about my work, please come and talk to me after. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And for you, Shaun, I have a question specifically for you. How can society promote positive body image and self-esteem amongst disabled people, fostering a healthy and confident approach to sexuality and relationships?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm even sitting here thinking about the fact I'm talking about sex. My Caribbean mum would be screaming, cussing me from the rooftop somewhere with a Bible, which shows growth. But I think for myself, I've modeled in the past, and I had a very disordered relationship with my own body image and my own sense of self. I've walked like London Fashion Week, Graduate Fashion Week, I've shot for really big brands. And for about 3 years, I was suffering with I don't want to call it an eating disorder because it wasn't diagnosed. I want to be very careful and call it disordered eating to do justice. I starved myself. I drank like up to 4 liters of water a day on mornings. I tried to work out. I had a lot of dysfunctional behavior because of the way I saw myself. I wanted to maintain my cheekbones, but I didn't want to put on any sort of fat at the same time. I had very delusional thinking. And the sense of body image, we know bodies come in different shapes and sizes, right? And one of the biggest things I've had to learn to realize is regardless of where I am, I'm still enough. I'm still got purpose, and I've still got so much more. And there's something that I was just thinking about. My mum and I used to watch a show called The Undateables, right? Yeah. But I think the way Undateables is edited is to be more comedic. It's got more of a laugh at kind of people tone, and I've been really guilty of that. And when you do a direct comparison with Love on a Spectrum, for example, in Australia, it's a lot more humane in its editing. It's a lot more loving, and it helps. I think it gives you a real understanding that, as you said, people regardless can have love, they can have intimacy, and they can have relationships. And I think the very first thing, as I said, to be able to do is to talk about these things, but to understand just because somebody has a disability doesn't mean you cannot. It doesn't mean you can't not have the conversation. It's infantilization at its finest. It's treating people as if they're incapable of understanding certain concepts. And if you think about it, the quote-unquote normal person can barely talk about sex. Yeah. And as I said, I'm sitting on a panel and my aunties and mum are somewhere, their ears are burning, hearing me talk about sex. So yeah.
So true. I've got those family members too, and they think there's something wrong with me because I don't stop talking about it. And Kelly, I want to pose the same question to you.
About body image. Sorry, I was so enthralled in hearing that answer that
Do you want me to repeat the question for you?
Yeah, so about body image, something that we try and do as a brand is just show all types of bodies. And Roxy was actually in our latest photo shoot showing off her body, which was a fantastic day. And we just love to show that there's just so many different types of people out there. Like the common conception, sexy isn't a thing. To me, what's sexy is people that are comfortable in their own skin, people that express themselves, people that look the way they want to look, people that have got real stories. I'm so sick of this kind of social media world where everything has to be perfect. And as a creative director, my job and the way I can show people and educate people is by actually having that representation there and having people like me when I was a kid that wouldn't see a disabled person in a fashion catalogue or, on a runway. It's just about boosting that kind of representation so people understand that disabled people are sexy. If I have to get loads of disabled people in their underwear to do that, then that's my job. I'll do it for you guys, happily.
And she did it, and I was part of it, and it was epic. Like, honestly, seeing other disabled people in their underwear and being like, normalising that. but also putting on a big brand that does amazing sex toys that are also very disabled, accessible. Plug in Hot Octopus here. Have some really good remote control versions.
Keep going.
Yeah, we love that. Thank you. And then I have another question for you, Helen, which is what steps can healthcare providers, policymakers, and advocacy organisations take to ensure that disabled individuals have equal access to comprehensive sexual healthcare services, including tailored information, support system, and resources?
Wow, that's a big question. I will do my very best to answer it. So, again, I'm going to be looking at this from the perspective of a teacher who's working with kids with very, very severe physical and neurodisabilities. And I like to take a really broad definition of sexual health. So being aware of your body, naming your body parts, understanding touches that you like, understanding what gives you pleasure, learning the Makaton signs for sexuality and all that sort of thing. If you're a non-verbal young person, which most of the young people I work with are, have you got the symbols that you need to be able to communicate about your sexual needs? Do you know where to find the word masturbation? Because you might want to ask your carers to, take you out of your wheelchair and make you comfortable so you can do that. So we're taking a really broad definition. And then in terms of tailored support, this is where the work that I did with the sex factor comes in, because people with complex learning disabilities need to they can't look at DVDs, they can't do worksheets or have easy read stuff. They need stuff that engages their senses. So that's why I wrote loads of sensory stories around what it means to have a crush. What does it mean to fancy someone? Where is it okay to masturbate? And talking about pleasure and all those sorts of things. So I've written lots of sensory stories which are tailor-made for people with these complex disabilities. We use anatomically correct dolls and drama and all sorts of really imaginative ways. But this is the point. The more profound someone's disability, kind of the more creative and imaginative we as parents, carers, professionals need to be to get that information to people. Nobody should be excluded. So this information starts as soon as someone comes into our school. Young people come into our school at 4, and their journey around understanding themselves and their bodies and puberty and their sexual health and their journey begins as early on as possible. And I firmly believe that this journey and this education and these tailored resources need to be there throughout the life of someone with complex disabilities. It's no use kind of doing a bit and then leaving it. They need that tailored support within care homes throughout their life. If you're interested in hearing about the sex factor, the training and resources that we have at Chailey Heritage, do get in touch with me afterwards, because we love sharing it. Don't we, Rob? Okay, thank you.
And I would like to ask the same question to you, Lorraine.
Thank you. I've actually forgotten the question. I was so busy concentrating.
The question was, what steps can healthcare providers, policymakers and advocacy organisations take to ensure disabled individuals have equal access to comprehensive sexual healthcare services?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Right. Well, that's something I created a first in a world thing for. Some of you may be aware of autism awareness cards, so that you can hand over to a professional or a shopkeeper or something to just say, you're autistic, this is what will help me. And I thought, wouldn't it be really good? I kept hearing about these cans of worms. I don't know if I know the answers, and I don't want to open a can of worms because I don't want to, give the wrong information. So I thought, well, how about if we had a sex and intimacy card, so that if you're speaking to, even if it's your GP, and you go in because you've got an ingrown toe, but that phenomenon which doctors know worldwide, somebody then goes to leave the room and their hand is on the door handle and they go, and while I'm here, and they do that. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could just hand a little card to your health professional, and this is sex intimacy card, and it's putting the responsibility on the professional that you're asking them for help, and it is their duty as part of their role to help you with the information. So we've got that. We've got real life ones, which are on our stand. We've also got a virtual one on our website. So you can just download it as a picture on your phone, and then you can just flash it wherever you need to flash it. And it gives the perhaps unsuspecting professional a moment to gather themselves and then hopefully come up with an answer. We're not expecting every person to have the answers, but we certainly expect them to try and find a source of information, which is people like us. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you. And the last thing I want to ask all of you is, what would you like to say about sex and disability? What do you think needs to really be changed, or what empowerment do you want to give to the community?
For me, I think it's building your confidence and accepting that you're okay as you are, and that you have as much right as anybody else to well-being, sex, intimacy, cuddles, touch, and that absolutely nobody has got the right to say that you haven't got that right.
Pretending sex doesn't exist doesn't make it go away, and if you can just have easier conversations about things, I think the world will be in a far better place. And whether that's in the UK or all across the world, we encourage and foster more of an open culture. And I think a good example of this is if you look at Amsterdam, they teach children, I think it's as young as 5 and 6, and some people can disagree with that about sex. And they have one of the lowest teen rates of pregnancy in the UK, whereas you look at the UK, we try to pretend sex doesn't exist, and people will go out into the world and experiment. They'll use porn, which is also quite destructive. So if we can just open up conversation and dialogue, I think the world would begin to have very, very different conversations.
I'm going to tell a little story, if that's okay. So, one of the mainstream schools that I went to as a kid was a Catholic school. And so, of course, they taught about sex after marriage, not sex before marriage, after marriage. So, of course, we never had sex ed because they didn't believe in that. So then I went to a special needs school, and on my school records it said that I was Catholic. So they actually pulled me out of the sex ed classes. And I was like, no, I'm not Catholic. I go to a Church of England church. I'm not actually Catholic. So then they had to change it. So then they put me back into sex ed classes. And actually, I missed so much. I hadn't learnt anything anyway. So I learnt off my friends, of course, because we were all at the same boarding school. So all the girls in my dormitory who I shared a dorm with, of course, we all talked about it, and they taught me what they were taught. So I kind of caught up in the end. Anyway, so then, obviously, after I left school, my mum was the one who taught me about the birds and the bees. And I was like, I kind of know some stuff, I don't know some stuff. So, like, she did the big talk with me, and that was all great. And so then, of course, when I came to work at MenCap, and I was told that people with lesbians don't have sex, I was like, don't they teach it in schools? Like, well, surely they wouldn't have had it in school? And I was really shocked. So for the past few years, I've been doing some work with Eve Appeal, who are an amazing gynec cancer awareness charity, and I'm also an ambassador for Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust, and I've been doing some work with them in my ambassador roles around cervical screening and sex and relationships. It's all on their website, and I'm an ambassador for them, so look them up as well, because I'm a proud ambassador. And so I'm just here to say, actually, people with a learning disability do have sex, as long as they have the right support, to have a good sex life and to have a good relationship, they can be happy like anybody else, and they are just like anyone else.
Okay, well, what I'm going to say kind of leads on really well from that. I'm on a mission for I guess, world domination in fantastic sex and relationship education for people with complex needs. Recent study by the Sex Education Forum showed that over 95% of teachers feel ill-equipped to teach sex education, and yet if done well, it can be life-changing. I haven't got time to tell you lots of lovely stories now, but you can always find me afterwards and I'll tell you wonderful stories of how brilliant RSE for people with very, very complex learning disabilities and physical disabilities has been life-changing. So we need to put brilliant sex education into schools and into special schools and equip the people that are giving that education to do it confidently and really well, and to have some fun with it, because it's a really brilliant subject.
Thank you. And Kelly?
Yeah, as always, everybody's answered the question really well. The only thing I think I can add is I get messaged quite a lot on Instagram about dating and relationships, especially online dating. I'm very lucky with online dating, probably too much so, because I met my partner online and then I fell pregnant within 5 weeks, which isn't a conventional thing to do. But I was surprised, honestly, because I had such a big gap out of the dating game. And when I started dating, I used to always hide my wheelchair or like do just a selfie. And then it always came to that kind of conversation about disability. And I felt like I was hiding something about myself. And then I realised that's not actually true. Like, obviously, you've got no obligation to say that you are disabled. And, you know, I just felt personally, it made it when I got, because I felt not embarrassed, but I always felt like there was a conversation to be had, and it put a whole dampener on the whole relationship and the way that I felt about things, because I felt I was not representing myself and not being my true self, because being disabled is a huge part of me and who I am. And I realised that once I kind of put that out there, started sharing like pictures of me in my chair, pictures of me like doing the things that I love to do in my own life, I had like such a better experience and such a better response, because I felt like I could truly be myself. I was confident with myself. I was happy with myself. And I suppose what I'm trying to say to everybody here is, I know it's hard, and sometimes, you know, you think I'm not going to meet somebody, or I might not meet the right person, but the right person will come based on you being the truest representation of yourself, and that's definitely what I found, and I suppose that's kind of like my advice in a nutshell, really.
Thank you, Kelly. I just want to add that your sexual wants, pleasures, kinks, the feelings that you have shouldn't be seen as shameful. We should all be able to embrace our authentic sexual selves, regardless of having a disability, and that's what I want to leave everybody with. But I also would like every single one of you to let everyone know where they can find you if they'd like to speak more or connect.
I'll be hanging around the Chailey Heritage Foundation, which is in H8. Over the guys there, they're pointing. If I'm not around, or you know, whatever, feel free to email me or just phone up Chailey Heritage Foundation, ask for Helen Dunman. A message will get to me, and I will get in touch with you.
Brilliant. So I'm on Instagram, Ciara.Lawrence, but I will be hanging around here afterwards if you want to come and talk to me. I'm also on Twitter at Ciara LE01, but again, I'll be around here afterwards, so if anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, I can get you to follow me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm everywhere, so just come and talk to me and I will sign you up.
I've deleted all my social media apps at the moment, but the pages are still active. It's at the Shaun Flores, so TheShaunFlores. Yeah, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation with anybody about anything. I thought you were going to ask us what are our kinks for one moment.
Well,
I was about to pass out.
I can if you want.
Oh, God, that would be a whole other session, wouldn't it? Maybe we can do that next year. That would be fun. Right, so the easiest way to get in touch with us, it's via our website, which is all the W's, swaddorset.org. That's SWAD Dorset, DORSET.org. We are on all the socials. I've got head like a sieve. I have no idea what they are, but I do have leaflets and I'm not afraid to use them. So I'm hanging around here after the session ends. Very happy to talk to anybody. We do have a stand. Again, can't remember the number, but it's on the far wall opposite those fabulous beds that they have. So yeah, please, please, please don't struggle in silence with anything. If you're a professional, drop us an email. If you're not professional, drop us an email as well, and we will do our very best to try and help you, and we also signpost to other services. Okay? Lovely to see everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. And Kelly Bot, how do we find you?
And you can find us and our sex toys at Hot Octopus with 2 S's.com. So drop me a line if anyone wants to chat. Always happy to talk to everybody.
Thank you.
Can you ask her to repeat it?
Can you repeat that again, Kelly?
What happened?
It wasn't you, it was us.
Can you hear me? Hello.
They're coming, they're coming.
Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah? It's at Miss Kelg, MSKEMPEE on socials. And our sex toys are available at Hot Octopus with 2 S's.com. But reach out to me if you want to chat. I'm happy to talk to anyone.
Thank you, Kelly. We did, yeah, thank you. And I am Roxy Murray. You can find me under Multiple Sclerosis Fashionista on the Instagram, or you can find my podcast, The Sick and Sickening Podcast, on all good podcast platforms, where we love the conversation about sex and disability. Come and connect with me, come on the show. I'd love to chat. But thank you all for being here today, and I hope you've all enjoyed your Disability Expo.